Welcome to the No Name Brand Podcast. My name is Sashka Hanorakal, actress, singer, dancer, turned brand marketing, sales, and advertising strategist who brands your soul. And each week I bring you an inspiring person or message to help you discover your underdog, turn up your leadership notches, challenge the status quo, because you're fast and furious with a powerful message to share with the world. Thank you for taking time out with me today, and without further ado, let's get our creative and wisdom juices flowing. Woohoo, visionaries, and welcome back to this week's No Name Brand Podcast with moi, your host, Sashka, where I invite inspiring and visionary guests from around the world to share their thought leadership on their form of entrepreneurship, their philosophy, and using their learnings from this episode for you to implement today to be the change that you want to see and be in the world. So they're going to be challenging your truth. So listen up, people. Today's guest is fun. I just had a bit of giggles before we got onto the call. Her obsession is coach salting. She combined the words. Did you get that? Coach and consulting. People who left corporate to do their own thing. Now, people who want to build an international, sustainable, and purposeful thought leadership personal brand on LinkedIn. Excuse me, LinkedIn, has that not died? What? Where have you been? No. She started as a social scientist. Oh, welcome, scientist. Turned into a doctor of philosophy, a LinkedIn marketing unicorn. Does that match with LinkedIn? Inc. magazine, a Forbes Coaches Council member, top expert at Erfolg magazine, that is German, a LinkedIn learning author, and last but not least, the Middle East's leading edutainer. Sounds all fancy schmancy, right? Well, it does come across like that. Her keynotes are perfect. Her interviews are perfect. Her makeup and presentation is on point and fleek. This is the perfect life for our next guest because she chose and created it. Because all of it before, the success according to how the world, her market saw it, crushed her. She wanted out. Not an easy decision to make as a young 29-year-old successful with money, success, and a career on the rise. But like her favorite animation character, Alice, she had to go down many rabbit holes in Wonderland to find her path to her own Wonderland and what that means to her. But why did she choose this path? Why is this the life she prefers and wants to live fully and abundantly? And what gets her up every morning to fulfill her purpose? Well, this is what we're going to find out. So let's give her a warm welcome on the No Name Brand Podcast, the one and only Dr. Natalia Wiechowski. Hello, Natalia.
Thank you so much for the phenomenal introduction, Sashka. Thanks.
Muchas gracias. Thank you so much. So for our listeners, how I found Natalia was through a mutual friend who'd interviewed her, Stephen Eugene Kuhn, and suggested I connect with Natalia. And I was like, yeah, cool. No, they're cool. Now, most would smirk at that. I mean, we both build businesses and brands and our strategists and our social scientists. Rather odd to meet up and interview someone who does something similar to me. Yeah, not in my world. And we're going to delve into why. I don't believe in competition in the usual sense. I believe competition shows us our gaps that will catapult us to the mission we envision. Check out my free breakthrough business plan training to hear more about this. And did you see that? Inconspicuous marketing. And competition is for those who don't believe in their abilities and their purpose, in a nutshell. And this definitely is not the case with us two chicas. Right, Natalia?
I always say it's a little bit like having dessert. I mean, there's apple pie and there is crème brûlée and mousse au chocolat and I don't know, so many other things. They are all amazing. They're not in competition and you need to choose whatever you feel like today or feel like in this life phase, and your flavor might change over the weeks or months or years, and that's totally fine.
I like that because it's all under the terminology desserts, but there's a lot of flavor in there. So there's a lot of marketing, but there's a lot of flavor in there. You get that? Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes. So I want to start off first with your journey in entrepreneurship. So you finished your master's degree one
Mm,
semester earlier. This is the buff
mm,
we have here, people, to take up an offer abroad away from Germany, because you're originally from Germany, your home
mm.
country. And where in Germany? Von wo bist du?
Hannover, Hannover.
Hannover. Oh, sehr, sehr, sehr schön. Wir werden
Ja.
ein bisschen in Deutsch reden. Nein, 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 nein. We're going into English. Anyway, and you built your name for yourself in Abu Dhabi, where you live now, right?
So I started in Abu Dhabi, lived and worked there for 3.5 years, and then I moved to Dubai, and now I live in Dubai since then.
I love that. I love it. Now, for our listeners, Natalia is a beautiful, gorgeous, blonde, blue-eyed beauty who lives in a male-dominant country. Just think about this for a second and share with us, Natalia, how you created an established brand in a male-dominated country.
I realized that we need to tap into our true authentic self. I mean, you hear that quite often, and it's fancy, and it's motivational quotes, and it's everywhere, most probably on calendars and on t-shirts. But I believe that majority of people don't understand what it really means. So after working for the government, as you said, I changed into private economy. And then I decided at the age of 29 that nothing makes sense. I need to define my own version of success, my own version of happiness, need to figure out who I am, what I want to do. So I went on a sabbatical, and during that sabbatical, I literally reinvented myself. I asked myself the question, what if everything that I ever learned was a lie or an illusion? So I literally touched every concept like family, sexuality, politics, business, identity, nations, whatever it was, and ask myself, what is it that society wants me to believe or see? What is it that my parents and my friends see in this? And what is my personal answer? So once I got this clear and I decluttered, uncluttered my thoughts and my feelings and did a lot of pastime work and healing, I was ready to face the future. So I literally created a very long list of things that I always wanted to do, stumbled up, made a lot of mistakes, and built my own dream lifestyle and career of purpose by trial and error, failure, and eventually in this chaos, figuring out what my magic or my genius or my crazy self is really good at. And I believe when you tap into this and don't make it about yourself, but about serving others, this is how you're going to succeed. And this then goes back to what you said. Nobody is in competition with me because I am my true self. The only competition that I have is the person that I was yesterday.
I love that. It's quite profound because the perception of most going on a journey, they land going into hippie land and staying there. But you went into hippie land, but you're still pretty much in the market in the area that you worked and studied in, but with a different perspective. So what was the perspective before in the entrepreneurship, and what is it afterwards? And what made you decide to go, was it a big idea or not, to go, you know what, I think I'm going to be self-employed?
Yeah, so I've tested or gave my best to work for the government because that's very safe, that's very stable. That's what a lot of people want, especially in my circles in Germany. You know, when you made it, when you're a teacher or when you're employed by the government, wow, fantastic. It's stable. You get a lot of money. You get great insurance also for your kids and everything. Tried this, didn't like it. Then I worked in private economy and I realized, okay, I also don't like that. So I'm like, what other options are out there? So I could get married and just be a luxury, high maintenance wife. And I was like, that's
Sure,
so
yeah.
not for me. Doesn't work. It is a life concept for some, but I would rather shoot myself. Okay, so option number 3 doesn't work. Okay, what other options do I have? I could go back to Germany and officially call myself unemployed and live based on the costs or live from the taxes of other people, right? You know, I get my 400 euro or however it is per month, and I continue living like that. But I thought, well, that's also not an option because I somewhat like work. Not the way how I worked over the last years, but work itself and achieving things is in my blood, it's in my nature. So the last option is either freelancing or starting your own business. So I said, you know what, let's give it a trial. And I started with freelancing first and did that for a very long time, saved up the money, and then eventually realized that as a freelancer, you're always swapping your own time and you just work yourself into exhaustion. So then I, again, needed some therapy and healing, whatever, in order to learn to delegate and started hiring the first people. And once I had that, I realized it's not as complicated and not as overwhelming when you find the right people and when you work on what you really care. And when you see that transformation in people, you're willing to put up all of the time and the energy, whatever it requires, because it serves a bigger purpose. So there were quite a few shifts that I needed to make in my own awareness, in the way how I perceive myself and my own abilities, and how different entrepreneurship is from the BS that you see marketed on Instagram, like hashtag working from the beach today, hashtag so blessed, hashtag my new Porsche and my new, I don't know what car. Forget that. Not for the first 3, 4, 5 years. Nonsense.
Yeah. That is so true. Whenever I see that, I'm just like, I don't want to knock it, because I'm at a phase where I understand it. So when I see things like, oh, hashtag beach, hashtag Porsche or whatever, I know that that doesn't bring me fulfillment. That's not for me for success. First of all, I love fast cars. I'm a fast car fanatic, and I would rather drive them than own them. I'd rather have other assets, because a car is an expense and I need the space for all those beautiful cars. So it's just not practical for me. And on the other hand, I like to live a life, me personally, where I'm free from stuff. So I don't always have to have all the stuff around me. What was the journey where you, okay, I'm from the government and then I'm not in the government anymore, and you're doing your own thing, you're doing all the healing, which, by the way, isn't like an overnight success. It takes time. And then you come onto the platform LinkedIn and you're an edutainer and coach, consulting. What I love about you is that you're very similar to me, is that we're multi-passionate spiritual beings. And we haven't focused on going, I have to do one thing. So I'm doing everything because I was meant to do everything. But you focus in one direction, which is the consulting, the coaching on a platform or for a platform. Why LinkedIn?
Yeah, so I started on Instagram and played a little bit with Facebook. And I realized that it was very difficult to stand out there. And I was going through the beginning of my sabbatical. I started a blog and I started writing about what if everything that we ever learned was wrong, and about passion and about a new definition of success and da 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 da. And I realized people were not reading, people were not commenting. And then I realized, okay, I need more colorful and more beautiful pictures. So I did that. And then I realized that the comments that I got were always like, you're so beautiful, you're so pretty. Oh my God, I want to marry you. Let me send you a dick pic. Oh God. And I was like, life is too short for that. No. So there must be another platform. And then I realized, well, maybe it's LinkedIn. So I started working with LinkedIn and I realized that the algorithm over there is sensational. It is amazing. It's far away from all the clutter and the noise. And it's also the end user on LinkedIn is so much older and also has a much higher income than the average user on Instagram. So that was another reason. And what I love about LinkedIn is that people are there, they are in a mindset of business. They are there because they want to network, they want to expand their social brand, they want to learn, they want to collaborate, right? While people on Instagram or Facebook, they want to be entertained and they want to be inspired and motivated. And that's not what my content is about. So I realized, okay, because of at least these 3-4 reasons, I need to try LinkedIn. That tested it over and over again for 1.5, 2 years. And then 2 of my posts went viral, boom. Then my followers grew from 3,000 to 18,000, from 18,000 to 30,000. Nowadays, it's around 66,000 people from all around the world who want to become a little bit better every day, who make the active choice and commitment every day to help at least one person to laugh and not take themselves too seriously. And this is what I live for.
I love that. I love that. Because so many people think of LinkedIn as being so serious. So serious. Share with us, Natalia. Share with us, Dr. Natalia. What do you think? Let's dissect LinkedIn, shall we?
Well, it always depends on the audience that you have designed for yourself. So, of course, there will be a handful of people who call themselves as self-proclaimed LinkedIn police. And they say, well, LinkedIn is not Facebook and LinkedIn is not Instagram. So they might even report your profile or send an email to LinkedIn saying what you do is like so unprofessional. So based on that, I've created I think it was a video in which I said, well, there are a few people who think I'm unprofessional. And I wanted to ask you, what does professional actually mean to you? And I had over 300 comments. And the core message is that being professional means something different depending on 589 different factors. It depends on your gender. It depends on your age. It depends on your culture. It depends if you work for somebody or on your own. It depends on your mood. It depends on when you got laid last time. It depends on, I don't know, on 10,000 different other factors. So maybe the word professional is not a word that helps us here. So think about adding value to your audience. This is what I focus on. And because I went through so much pain and through so much cleansing, I realized that maybe we shouldn't take ourselves and life so seriously. Maybe we will live healthier and longer through that. Maybe we will connect deeper with people. And you guess what? My audience loves it, and my audience respects me for that and works with me. We're having fun, we're playing, and we're getting shit done. And this is what it's all about. So serious, professional, screw that. If that's part of your character and you want to be like that, go for it, but you don't have to if that feels just bizarre and dead and lame for you.
Yeah, I love that. Give me your take on it's foremost not what you know, but who you know.
Well, I believe that you will not make it on your own in today's society, neither in your private life nor in business, because society, the way how human beings are wired, it's about collaboration, it's about support. And the way how social networks work is that in them, they're full of information, they're full of opportunities, they're full of assets that you only get access to when you're part of the group. So yes, you need to strategically work on your personal brand, on your social network. You need to ask yourself, with whom am I connected online and in the real world, in quotation marks, and ask yourself, what kind of people I'm missing? What kind of people do I want in there? Clients, mentors, collaboration partners, friends, whatever it is. And then actively reach out to these people, not from a mindset of, you need to help me because I'm so great and I'm so entitled and I'm fantastic. But from an angle of, how can I add value? How can I help you? You help me, I help you. So yes, you need to have a great network, and yes, you need to know specific people in order to get certain results, in order to open specific doors, in order to get that talk here, or in order to be featured there, or in order to shake your hands with that individual, which will boost your credibility as a personal brand. But you need to have a very strong foundation of knowledge and expertise. If you don't have the substance, the foundation, if you're just funny, or if you're just pretty, or if you just know how to dress, but you don't add value, you don't have something that you're expert in, if I want to phrase it that way, if that is not there, it's not sustainable. So it's great that you know a lot of people, but what will they do with you? How will you make them look like? So build the foundation first, become the expert in something, then make sure that you also have an amazing network.
I love that. I love that explanation. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
You also speak a lot. You're a keynote speaker. As an edutainer, I do the same. So explain from your point of view, what is it you speak about? What are your key what are your key keynotes about? And what is an edutainer?
So an edutainer is a person who mixes education with entertainment. So if that's not a good explanation, it's a mix between a teacher and a firecracker or a clown. And why is that so? Because I believe that a lot of people, when they hear about teacher or learning or education or keynote, they already ask themselves, should I check my Twitter account, or should I take my pillow with me and, just sleep? Because it has been, unfortunately, a lot of people don't get adequately paid for what they do as a teacher, and they don't get the respect that they deserve. I think it's one of the most beautiful jobs on this planet. But because of various reasons, unfortunately, not everybody translates or transforms information and knowledge in a fun way, in a relevant way. And there is research that has shown that when people laugh, when you use pictures, when you're interactive, when you play with your voice and all of that, people have a good time. And this increases the chances of them actually remembering what you said. And this is what it's all about. You as a teacher, as a speaker, whatever you want to call it, it's not about you looking amazing. I'm so sophisticated. I have 13 years of knowledge. I'm a doctor of philosophy. This is not what it's about. Your job is to give energy and knowledge to the audience. The audience is what it's all about. So forget about yourself and make it all about them. So this is the definition of an edutainer in my perspective, to answer part one of your question. And part two is, what am I talking about? I talk about how do I build a personal brand on LinkedIn? So how do I use LinkedIn as my core marketing and sales platform in order to get more clients and in order to make a positive impact on the world? So whenever somebody approaches me and says, hey, Natalia, I need a lot of money. I want to make a lot of money. And then I'm like, yeah, what about giving back? And they're like, yeah, I don't give a fuck. I'm like, I don't want to work. So for me, it's very important that people want to have both. So this is the first keynote topic that I speak about. The second one is content marketing. So how do I create amazing, engaging content, especially on LinkedIn, that people love and share and engage with and that they like? And the third topic that I talk about is personal branding as the new company branding. So how can companies finally understand and use the faces of their employees to build trust, to reconnect with the audience, to make sure that we don't scroll through the newsfeed? And this is a benefit for the employees who then stay longer and feel appreciated, but also for the companies to make more sales.
I love that. We want to come and stay. We want to come and listen to Natalia. Yes.
Well, let's do something together.
That is such a freaking awesome idea. I have ideas already. We shall discuss this afterwards. Ma, you'll be let in, listeners. So you're a doctor of philosophy and a social scientist. Dr. Gadget, what is your insight to social media currently being overloaded and flooded with too much?
I believe that we spend way too much time on social media. Many of us get addicted to it and we just ignore that and we don't speak enough about it. I mean, there are so many discussions around the fact that the way how likes and love and celebrate and how all of these icons are called, they are wired in a gamification way. They are designed to make us addicted to it. So we get a positive flow. We get a rush of, oh, I like this. Whenever we open social media and we see a lot of like and a lot of comments and engagement and whatever. So we spend even more time on social media. So that's a problem. And because the internet is also a place where almost every, please excuse my language, every idiot can share his opinion, a lot of people create content, especially on platforms like Instagram and LinkedIn. It's not so much the case, on Instagram and Facebook. It's not so much the case on LinkedIn yet, but on Instagram and on Facebook, a lot of morons just post BS and they post just stuff that nobody cares about because they still believe it's about, look at me, I'm the best, and it's about me and my life and I'm so successful. So they just spam you with cat videos and with wrongly spelled Starbucks cups that we all know is a marketing gag anyway. So because of that, there's tons of rubbish content out there. Because of that, real content creators, in quotation marks, need to come up with better, smarter, crazier ways to stand out. And because of that, I believe the lifespan of a post gets shorter and shorter and shorter with the time. There is more and more pressure that is put on businesses and individuals. So I think in the end, we're all creating hell for each other. I think we really need to talk about this topic and see if we somehow find smarter and nicer and kinder ways in order to not get burned out and in order to not feel bad and in order to not run at the super faster and faster and faster speed in the world of hashtags and trending and viral.
I love that. Yeah. I love that. I've actually got a live planned all around this about the social media recession and what my opinions to it. So thank you for your insight on that. That's rather interesting. Now, this little section is just a little bit about philosophy that I like to speak with my guests on the show, just to kind of divert a little bit away, but still a little bit in contact with the entrepreneurship. As a child, you loved everything about food and the social aspect of it. Same as myself. Love it. I still do. Do you feel that this was a base to your interest in studying human behavior and social sciences? And if so, what is it that fascinated you then back then that you needed answers to? And how does it connect with personal branding? Lots of questions there.
Yeah, I know. It's huge. So I'm still a foodie and I always love food. Don't ask me where it comes from. And I just think that we are here on this planet in order to explore and to create and in order to express our senses and colors and smells and all of that. And I think food is a great aspect to tap into all of these things. So I think that's maybe one of the reasons why food, why it was, why it still is. And I tendency-wise am a sensitive person, and tendency-wise I'm also an introvert. So I spend a lot of time in my head, a lot of time on my own, observing things, and I cannot spend too much time with people. I find them fascinating since day one, and I think also since day one I have a love-hate relationship. I remember scenes out of my life where I would see the news, and I would just start crying. And my mom would just look at me and was like, what's going on? I was like, the whales are dying and the fish are dying. We're polluting the planet. And oh my God, and it's horrible. And she's like, she didn't know what to do. And I would come up with the most random things and accusations. For example, there's another crazy scene that I remember where she just took a tea bag and threw it into the garbage. And I was like, because of you, we're ruining the planet. You're not recycling. And she's like, what do you mean? And I was like, you know, a tea bag has the herbs, and then it has the paper, and then it has the cord, and then it has the paper clip, and then it has the paper. We need to all put that into different pieces. And yeah, my mom had quite a tough time with me growing up. And so I realized that we go through so much beautiful moments and through so much suffering because of us, because of ourselves, because of what we have inside, and because of the way how we treat other people. And I wanted to study human behavior in order to understand it, because I had a lot of question marks. And at a later stage, I also was crazy enough, in quotation marks, to believe that I will find a solution for all of this. And in my sabbatical, I learned, and I fully believe in what Gandhi said. I believe that you need to be the change that you wish to see for the world. And this does not mean that you need to donate millions and trillions of dollars or whatever currency. And this does not mean that you need to go into a war zone and live a super dangerous life or dig wells. You need to figure out how you help, whom you help. And make that based on what you got upset the most when you were a kid. You know, remember, what was it that you always made you cry or made you feel like, bleh, or made you have a debate with your parents? And I believe that there's your passion or the reason why you're here or your why or however you want to call it is somewhat connected to that. So then understand it and help other people. And I think, again, this is the reason why I studied social science and why I still find human beings fascinating and why it is a hate-love relationship.
I love that. So many similarities. I'm like, oh my God, we could talk forever.
Maybe on another day.
Yeah, maybe another day, yes. Your thesis focuses on the question if there were ways on how we can get university graduates faster into the job market, ideally without writing CVs. Your research comes to the conclusion that being active in students' associations, and you mentioned, for example, junior consulting enterprises, polishing your soft skills and building a social network into the professional world are some of the key aspects, which can have a positive aspect on or impact on the transition from university into the business world, possibly also from school into the business world from there as well. Do you still believe in this today, the thesis that you've written? How has it evolved from then and why?
I still believe in social networks. I still believe in the power of marketing yourself, of presenting yourself. I have a different view on education and on the educational system right now. During my studies, I also needed to research a lot. What is education? What is talent? And what's the classic role of university, the highest institution of our society?
That's true. Yeah.
Right.
Right.
And
Yeah.
what I figured out was somewhat disappointing, because I remember I was sitting there in the disputation. When you finish a PhD, you write this 300 pages and then you need to defend it for 1.5 hours. And then I had one of the highest professors at university, and she just said it out bluntly. And she said, Natalia, but you know that our job as a university is also to shape society. We decide who the future leaders are, who will have a positive impact on the way how we work together. For me, it was as if in my head, 10,000 cards out of a house just collapsed. And it was something that I always thought and I always believed, and I read in between the lines in my thesis and my research, but I would have never ever phrased it that way, because I thought, it's politically incorrect, it's almost a conspiracy theory, I cannot say that. And she has phrased it that way. So I'm like, interesting that an institution comes from such an angle of, I know what is right and I can judge you, I can shape you, which I think can ruin a lot of lives, especially in a system which very often doesn't have the time to focus on every individual. So for me, it is incredibly fascinating, and I have the biggest respect from teachers and professors, etc. But nowadays, I wouldn't put education so much on a pedestal as I used to. I think what is so much more important to make it in life, to make it in your career and in business, is self-awareness. Self-awareness is key. Who are you? How do you function? What do you need? What does make you happy? What upsets you? How do you regenerate? How do you get energy? How do you maintain trauma? What do you do when you're hurt? You need to learn to cry. You need to learn to express yourself. And money isn't everything in life. Understand what money is for you. Understand what career means to you. Understand what you want from life. And when you look at your deathbed one day, when you're lying on your deathbed one day, and when you look back at your life, how do you need to live? How do you need to work? So when you're laying there, you have 5 more breaths left. And then, it's either the funnel or not the funnel, depending on if you want to be reborn or not reborn again. You say, wow, it was a hell of a ride. And I'm sorry I made a lot of mistakes, but all in all, it was phenomenal. I'm grateful. Now it's okay. Now it's time to go. So how do you need to live and work in order to come to this final conclusion, to come to this inner peace, to this fulfillment? And this is what it's all about.
I love that. How did you walk out of that disputation afterwards, after the professor? How were you afterwards? And how did it change the route that you were wanting to go, were already on the path?
Well, first of all, I think I never sweated that much in my life. Like, seriously. It's like, most probably it's a disgusting feeling, but I'll talk about it anyway. So, that feeling when you're just sweating below your armpit, but also down your back. And it's just like, you can feel the specific drops, and then it turns into an ocean, and then it turns into the Niagara Falls. And you're blushing, and your hands are sweating, and your knees are shivering. For me, that was the toughest moment ever in my life. I was like, oh my God, there's just one chance. Horrible. God, Allah, Buddha, whoever is out there, just please help me. So this is how I felt. #victim. But I went out of this and I was, first of all, released that it's finally over, because this PhD has a long story. So I could talk about it for an hour, but to make it very short, I've written my first PhD thesis. I wanted to defend it, but my professor disappeared. I looked after her. She was not there. So I needed to sign up with a second professor. That second professor said, well, I like the PhD thesis, but 85% is trash bin. So I needed to throw away my first PhD thesis, write a second one, which took me 4 more years in my life. So I don't know how many hours and tears and swear words I have invested, and how much paper, how many trees I've killed just for this PhD thesis. So for me, it was very important that I get out of this. And I somewhere had a little bit of an anti-feeling against universities since then. I felt as if they have robbed me from a lot of my time and energy, and as if they had inflicted a lot of wrong beliefs around talent and education in me. So I needed to forgive, I needed to forget. And as a little bit of an anti-movement, a part of me decided, you know what? I'm going to teach anyway, not as a professor. And I'm going to break all the rules, and I'm going to be politically incorrect, and I'm going to use humor, but I will show people that They do not need to have a PhD or a professor or whatever, and they can be successful and they can have a positive impact on lives, although they don't have a stupid certificate or although they didn't study for so and so many years. It can be very powerful, and when you work in specific jobs, yes, it might be required, but especially when you have your own business, nobody gives it.
Yeah, that is so true. Oh, hail Dr. Wiechowski! So we're coming to the end, and I have 2 questions that I ask all my guests. But before we get there, I would love for you to give our listeners, because knowledge is great, but unless it's acted upon, it's useless. So perhaps you have 4 action steps, 3 action steps, 2 action steps that our listeners can implement today to boost their personal brand on LinkedIn.
Well, the first point is definitely the profile. So your LinkedIn profile is not an online CV. It is a landing page. It is your second web page. So make sure that you tell a great story, that you get your positioning, your basics right. I mean, I'm sure that this is what you teach your clients as well. So who are you? What kind of people do you help? How do you help them? What are the end results? And when can I expect these results? That's very important. Use a great picture because people are visual. Think about your profile as a landing page. So that's the first thing. The second thing, very important, if you want to be a thought leader, and this is what this podcast is all about, it's about leading, you need to create content. You cannot be a leader and just follow or repost or comment. Stop consuming content and turn into a content creator. So talk about your life, about business hacks, add value. Don't make it about yourself, make it about your audience, but create content. So that's point number 2. Step number 3 is what we already talked about the social network. Sit down and ask yourself, in a perfect world, if you had any kind of gender, any kind of skin color, any kind of whatever, like the perfect nose, the perfect hair, the perfect body size, live in a perfect country, everything is perfect. So in that world, what kind of people would be in your social network? On LinkedIn, you can connect with 30,000 people. On Facebook, you just have 5,000 friends. So what kind of people do you want in there that you can help and that can help you? Then strategically approach these people. Make it personal, but do that every day. And the fourth and last point, also very important, have a way how you convert your followers and the likes and everything into leads. You need to make it rain, which you do with the content, but you need to have containers to collect these raindrops. Because if you don't do that, then I don't know how you pay your bills. I mean, for me, you need to make sure that you generate leads on a daily basis. This is absolutely essential as a business. So make sure that you have a funnel, a lead generation system that is integrated, that gets your followers and likes and comments somehow from LinkedIn into your platform, and that on a daily basis.
I love that. Did you get that, listeners? 1, profile is your landing page. 2, content, make it rain, make it rain. That was number 4, is that you've got to collect it. And number 3
was the social network. Expand it, grow it.
Your network. 30,000. That's pretty awesome. Not just 5,000 people. So my brain was busy working because I'm very visual, people. So when Natalia speaks or when anyone speaks, my mind does already have a movie. So I hear the auditory afterwards, which is really cool. So that's why I'm like, yeah, don't do that. And you're talking about raining and buckets. And I'm going, yeah, I can see the rain and buckets. Right. Oodles caboodles, it's just me having a short little break in this interview to bring you some information. Now, should you be looking for your purpose, you have to check out my book. It is called Sold Out, SOUL''D, Sold Out. It's your guide to finding your life purpose. And you can find this on brandsashka.com/books. Go and have a look. And now let's get back to the interview. Yippee! I would love your take on 3 of my core values and what they mean to you. So passion for you is?
Passion means burning for something, deeply caring about something, being excited about it to the extent that you're willing to put in the love, the pain, the energy and time into whatever it takes in order to make it happen.
Fire. Wisdom for you is?
Wisdom comes from insight and experience. It's absolutely essential that you regularly take short breaks to reflect on what you have done, how you could have made it in a better way. You forgive yourself and forget, and you do that with other people as well. And based on that, you act better, kinder, smarter next time. This is wisdom.
I love that. Better, kinder, smarter. I love that. Creativity for you is?
Not what the majority of people think. Creativity comes from the word create, which means building, making, doing, which means everybody's creative. I mean, when you sing a song, you create. When you bake cake, you create. You invite somebody for a coffee, or where you give somebody a bunch of flowers. You have put a smile on somebody's face. So you have created love or gratitude. So everybody can create. Creativity does not mean that you're a painter or a dancer. We all are creative. That is a talent we all have deeply wired into us. And you need to find what your creativity is, and you need to do that regularly, because if you don't do it, you won't feel fulfilled.
I love that. And lastly, Natalia, how do you want to change or challenge the world doing what you do?
I want to talk about topics that we do not talk about in public because it's a taboo topic or because it's something that you shouldn't talk about. My job is to look at certain aspects that we accept as a reality or as a fact and to question them, to ask funny questions and stupid questions and provocative questions. So to combine humor with knowledge, and through that, address that, through that, create awareness, through that, create discussions. And I think this is the first step towards change. By having the courage to talk about topics that, again, usually we shouldn't talk about, like money and sex and politics and religion and trauma and emotional healing and career and like literally anything that is out of our comfort zone. And when I do that, other people might find courage as well. And through that, we create the ripple effect. And this is what it's all about. Have the strength to talk about things that don't feel right for you. Speak your own truth. And don't come from an angle of, oh, I know it better. But come from an angle of, I don't understand. And I think we're all suffering. And I think we're behaving like idiots. And I think if more people would stand up and talk about this, there wouldn't be so much pain, wouldn't be so much suffering. We wouldn't treat each other the way how we do. We wouldn't do business in the way how we do. And maybe there would be still hope for a better tomorrow. So why don't we all do it? Like, what's the problem? And this is my job.
Yay!
Yay!
Thank you so much, Natalia.
You're most welcome.
Oh, man. Listeners, so my gorgeous visionary. So you can find Natalia on thinknatalia.com. Pretty much all the social media as well. You'll find it in the show notes where you can find her favorite book, her favorite quote, and more information from her. And obviously also on LinkedIn, just to let everyone know as well, is that I don't help you with LinkedIn. I help you with the messaging on finding that, your purpose over your profession. But Natalia is your go-to to build that personal brand on LinkedIn. So definitely get in contact with her and find out more information. Natalia, thank you so much for being here with us today. I really, really enjoyed it. It was so nice to meet you, finally.
Thank you so much, Sashka, also for all the compliments and the beautiful words that you have somehow slided in between the questions. I have received them all. I have acknowledged them all. But in order to not stretch more of our time, I decided to say a big, big thank you towards the end. So it was a pleasure to meet you or e-meet you. I hope this was not the last time.
I hope
and
so
let's see what we can do. And yeah, always there to help you and your audience. So don't hesitate to reach out.
I love it. Thank you. And to the visionaries, remember, fast and furious and be the change that you want to see and be in the world. I love you lots, and I'll see you again next week. Bye-bye. Dang, that was just supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. I enjoyed having you on board, and please do me and you a favor. Head on over to iTunes, SoundCloud, or Stitcher. Click subscribe, and a super bonus, leave your review and you stand a chance of being announced and advertised on the show. I'm always striving to ensure that your brand is uplifted and empowered. Remember, done is better than perfect. So be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and send in your feedback too. You're the absolute best. Keep rocking.